I know so many people who think that vintage watches are unreliable and think that they look too old to wear. So here are 3 vintage watches that can do it all. Hi, my name is Keanu Carey and I like to document my life. In this video, I want to answer these questions. What makes vintage watches better than modern? What makes Tudor better than Rolex? And which one out of the 3 would I buy? I actually daily a vintage chronograph. As a roofer, I inspect and sell roofs, and so I use my vintage chronograph to time how long I'm up on the roof. And honestly, it's just a really cool watch. But I know most people aren't okay with wearing an old vintage chronograph as their daily watch for a rough blue collar job. So for that reason, I picked out 3 vintage watches that can really do it all. They're super robust and they have this timeless reliability to them. And who else is better for the king of reliability than Rolex? So let's start with that. But before we talk about the Rolex, let's talk about what makes vintage watches better. Number 1 is they're relatively affordable compared to their modern counterparts. You can get crazy solid gold watches from big brands like Patek and Cartier for way cheaper than the new ones. The one that always comes to mind for me is the Patek Calatrava in solid gold. A brand new one, if you can even buy it, is 30 grand, but the vintage ones are more modestly sized and you can get them for around 10. Number 2 is you can get technologies that aren't really made anymore or aren't really common in the newer space. Brands used to be a lot more innovative and try new things, where I've noticed newer brands tend to take it safer route. The one that I'm thinking of are alarm watches, but also mystery dials. There's this really cool mystery zodiac dial, or I think that's what you call it, but basically where you can't really tell where the hand's connected. And I just think they're really cool. The way they work is they have like separate discs that make it look like it's floating, and it's just super fun. Number 3, if you choose the right one, they're usually pretty reliable and some are even water resistant. I mean, I know I've heard this story where someone water tested their Rolex Submariner from like the 70s and they actually dived with it and it was fine. I typically wouldn't recommend swimming with vintage watches, but there are some where if you wear them and wash your hands, you're not gonna have any issues. And number 4 is you can get some really timeless designs. I'm thinking of like the Rolexes and Tudors, which we'll be talking about today. But even like Elgin had some really timeless designs, Hamilton, like some of them give old man vibes, but some of them are really nice looking and you can get some crazy cool designs for good prices. So first up, let's talk about the Rolex Datejust. This is my first pick. This one is 36mm by 44mm. It's the vintage Oyster case, which wears bigger than you would expect, but it's also a lot slimmer than the newer Oyster cases. The new Oyster cases, for example, my 32mm one, wears a lot bigger, like a 34, because of how thick the lugs are. But these older ones are extremely comfortable, and I think that they look really nice because the case back is domed into your wrist, and the crystal is domed up. So yes, it's 12mm thick, but it wears a lot better than that. There are also smaller models with the Rolex Date and larger models with the 38mm Rolex Date, and so there is a little bit of variety and play around here if you don't think that the 36mm size is right for you. I personally owned a Rolex Date in 34mm and I absolutely loved it, but the 36mm is a super classic size for people with more modestly sized wrist. Like I said, it's about 12.5mm thin, not including the magnifier on the crystal. And I'm really surprised it's 12mm because it doesn't wear that thick at all. I mean, you got the domed case back and the tall crystal. But honestly, this watch will still fit under a cuff really well. And it's a really good wear with a sweater or any other long sleeve type of item. And honestly, I think short sleeves will look great too, because who doesn't love to show off the crown? This is the reference 1603, so that means no quickset, and the year of production is around 1975. This is a really, really beautiful model for being 50 years old, and I just think it's awesome. Even though it doesn't have any quickset, it has plenty of micro adjust holes. The new ones don't really have the micro adjust, but they do supplement that with the quick adjust. These vintage Datejust fall under the category of being way cheaper than the newer ones. These watches can be found well under $5,000, but the new ones, you really have to be paying over 10 grand to get like a really good one. Right now, I'm a licensed real estate agent and I just passed my exam. I could totally see myself wearing a Datejust in my career. I mean, the Datejust or the Submariner is the I'm a real estate agent watch, or maybe it's something else. I just think that this could be a really cool watch to wear in my career, and I think that it really would fit my vibe, if that makes sense. I'd probably wear this with a polo or a button up, or even put a strap on it for like a t-shirt and jeans kind of look. These Datejust would go really well with the new old money trend that's super trendy right now. I think this watch would be perfect for that. And that just brings up another topic about these old Datejust. They're just complete strap monsters. I mean, the new ones don't even compare to how well these old ones wear with straps. And I just think that they would look good on anything from a NATO to a metal band to leather, I mean, it would just look awesome. And there's one detail about this watch that I personally like, which is the engine turned bezel. They discontinued this from Rolex, so it's kind of rare if you want to look at it that way. It's not the fluted bezel, it's an engine turn. It gives it a cool kind of look. And the only other bezel that I like on these kind of watches are like the Thunderbirds with the numeral. The Thunderbirds had like a rotating Submariner like bezel, and those are super awesome. Specific to this watch, this is a Sigma dial, which means the crown and the markers are all white gold, which means that they won't corrode as easily, and it kind of just adds some premium value to the material and makes it a little bit heavier. So, you know, that's always nice. This also has a pipe hand dial. I'm not really sure what that means, but I think it looks really pretty. Apparently it adds depth to the dial, and if you know what that means, you can leave it in the comments below. But I honestly think that this is a very clean dial. It uses the space very well, and just because it has a date doesn't mean it's not symmetrical. I think it looks very symmetrical and clean. Speaking of another cool, clean watch that's symmetrical, it has to be the Tudor Submariner. The Tudor Submariner, or any Submariners, use masterful uses of shape. They're triangles and circles and rectangles as markers. It is just an iconic look, and they are really awesome. This specific one is from 1998, so maybe not super vintage, but a 90s Tudor is a watch that you can wear anywhere, and it looks fantastic. The measurements are 36mm by 44mm by 10mm, and I was surprised that this was thinner than the Rolex, but it's probably because it doesn't have a curved or domed crystal. As well as the 36mm, I know that might seem small for a dive watch, but they do make these in 40mm, so if that's your vibe, they also make those. Interestingly enough, they also make a mini sub, which is, I think, 31mm, and they make a ladies sub, which is 27mm. So if you wanted to get matching ones with your girlfriend or wife or something, then this would be an awesome watch to do that with. Not like I thought about doing that or anything. Maybe. This one comes with a flat sapphire crystal, so you're not going to have to worry about denting or scratching or busting this crystal. I mean, it's solid. Because it's a later model, it also comes with the quick set date, which is really nice. I mean, I don't know how often you set your watches, but I never complain about having a quick set date. These have a ratcheting unidirectional bezel, and they're not as nice as the newer ones. They do have a little bit of back play, but these are really solid watches, and I would totally take this on a boat and swim with it. I mean, I'm not going to be worried if it has just one little tick of back play. They don't have as satisfying sounds as the newer ones, but I think that overall, they're super grippy and they just look really cool. This one also has a screw down crown, which means it has 200 meters of water resistance, and this one I would definitely feel comfortable swimming with without water testing. Usually watches from the 1990s to 2000s, you can still swim with them, and I've never had a problem with it, so I think they're cool. I think this watch comes with separate bracelets, but this one comes with a 5-link bracelet. Not quite a Jubilee, it's more flat links. I think it's okay. It definitely gives it an older look. If I was going to try to make this look more modern, I would change out the bracelet, or I would even put it on the strap. And that just brings me to the next point. This watch is a strap monster. Now, unfortunately, I can't take these bracelets off to show you different straps, but I think that if you did put a different strap on it, they would look fantastic. And I know because I put straps on vintage Oysters and they've always looked great. I mean, the Submariner is just a timeless watch, and it always look good on the NATO strap, and it'll always look good on its bracelet. You know, this is the watch that most successful people get. For me specifically, I'm a roofer. I also sell roofs. I sell real estate and roofs, and so for me, I would wear this watch as my roofing watch. I would wear this other than my vintage chronograph on roofs, and I wouldn't feel worried about dangling it around or banging on stuff or getting scratches on it. This would be my tool watch. If I could afford it, I would totally get one of these. You know, now that I think about it, because of the 10mm thinness, I'd probably wear this as my real estate watch too. I mean, this is just a really cool, versatile watch. Nothing more versatile than the Submariner. You know, people wear Submariners with suits nowadays, and it's just like normal. The third watch is the Tudor Advisor, and this watch is super awesome and special because Rolex never made an alarm watch. This watch measures like a vintage date. It's a 34mm by 42mm, and it is only 11mm thick. What's really nice about this watch specifically is that it is in stunning condition. It's kind of hard to find these vintage Oyster alarms in such good condition. People pay heavy premiums to get the perfect condition vintage watch, and I think that if you have the money to shell out, they're totally worth it. I mean, this watch has a stunning dial. It is still silver and beautiful. It has this beautifully aged lume. It's not like the lume is seeping out or anything. The dial has never been redone. everything's original about it, and it's just really beautiful. I think a lot of people will be grateful that this one doesn't have the giant cyclops on it. It leads to a very symmetrical, beautiful dial, and it's a very clean look. The dual crowns is kind of an odd quirk. It's how you operate the alarm function, which is that red hand. That red hand just stands out. You know, people will think it's a GMT hand, but no, it's an alarm hand. To operate the alarm, you pull out the crown, and you just rotate the top crown for the alarm, and the bottom crown sets the time. One thing I don't like about this is you have to pull out the top crown to have the alarm on, and I personally wouldn't feel comfortable having the top crown always pulled out for my alarm set. I typically would probably wear this watch with the alarm off, or I don't know, I would just wear it in dressier situations. It has a really, really beautiful Rolex Jubilee bracelet on it, and I think that this serves as a dressy watch. Of course, being an oyster case, this is also a strap monster. You could wear leather strap, NATO strap, bracelet. This watch just looks stunning on any strap, but I would keep it on the Jubilee because damn, it looks good. I'm currently in college right now, and this would be my school watch. I mean, the alarm function is just so like school vibe, university vibe, community college vibe, whatever. I would wear this to classes. I would maybe set it for the end of class so I could, like, you know when to get packed up or whatever. I don't know. This is a cool watch. I love it. I would see myself wearing this to school. That would be my daily use of this watch. So just to recap some things I love about all three of these watches: you can dress them up, you can dress them down. They're super versatile, and they all super reliable because they come from Tudor and Rolex. But I just want to talk about why Tudor might be better than Rolex in this situation. The Tudor use ETA movements, and they're way more readily available to service and find parts for. They're just much cheaper. You can service an ETA movement for I think around $200. It shouldn't be too expensive, and honestly, if you try to service a modern Rolex Submariner for $200, I mean, you're not gonna be able to do that. The next one's kind of specific for me, but the Tudors are better for blue collar jobs. I've worn a Rolex as a roofer before, and it doesn't really fit the vibe, you know. I typically like to wear my older watches or like a Seiko or something that fits a blue collar job, and I think Tudors kind of fit the bill, especially vintage Tudors. Lastly, Tudor was invented to be the more affordable Rolex, and so you are getting more for your money, and that was how it was intended to be. And so Rolex was never meant to be Tudor, and Tudor was never meant to be Rolex, but you will always get more for your money with Tudor, and I think that's meant to be, and that's how the modern ones seem to be going. But the vintage ones are the exact same way. And lastly, the Tudors, you can always wear them because they are timeless designs. And I know this is the same case for Rolex, but with Tudors, I really feel like I can wear them forever. You know, I don't always feel like I can wear a Rolex, but with Tudor, I do. I feel safe wearing it, and for some people, that's super valuable. Now, I get that all three of these are aspirational pieces. These are not cheap watches. There are more affordable vintage watches, but that's not what we were covering today. We were covering these three. And if I could only afford one, I would get the Datejust or the Advisor. The sub is pretty great too, but I just typically don't wear dive watches. I have a small budget for watches, so I allocate most of my small budget for dive watches. Right now I'm wearing the SKX013. I have a video on the channel. You should check that out after this one. I typically allocate a majority of my funds to a luxury sports watch because that's what I'm typically wearing, and that's what I enjoy wearing. It fits my life the best, and I think it's a cool watch. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Leave a comment down below of your favorite vintage watch to wear, or that you just think is super reliable. And I love to hear about the watches you guys wear, so please let me know in the comments below. Go check out that SKX video, and I'll see you over there.